Hey, we got a surfer. Your 12-second hook. I've never had a surfer before. I've had a runner. I've had a hockey player. I've had a football player, but never a pro surfer. Pro surfer Jeremy Ryan joining me today live. Yeah, we're live. Live in the lab.
Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab.
All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going.
How did you go viral on TikTok?
You were on America's Got Talent.
How much do you get paid to be on AGT?
Oh, you didn't get paid. Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? Like, what you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real.
We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing.
I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2.
I've built an AI myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if they're all they're going to do is hurt humanity?
Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
What's going on, nation? I got to find a better way to get that music real flowing from the opener to the music playing in my ears. Hey, how are you? Wednesday rest and recovery day. Jeremy Ryan joining me here today live in the lab. We're talking surfing. I've surfed before. Yeah, to those of you that have met me, you're thinking, oh yeah, Keith surfs. Yeah, so they pulled out a big piece of plywood. They laid it out on the ocean. Like, okay, Keith, go stand on the plywood, and that's how you surf. I was like, oh, hey. And then big 8 inches of buoyancy so I could stand on the plywood. So that's my surfing expertise here live in the lab. Coming up, Jeremy Ryan, pro surfer turned entrepreneur business guy. Gonna hear his story. If you're tuning in for the first time today, where the hell you been? Honest to God, I've been up doing my morning show with Nicole Bernard, Mornings in the Lab. We run here Monday to Friday. We had 2 great guests this morning, not one. Not one, two. We had Shannon Houchin join us for coffee this morning, the Peach Lady. I keep promoting this episode. If you want to start a business and you don't want to get all complicated, just go sell peaches. That's it. I'll hang on that. Go sell peaches. Go ask Shannon Houchin, Roadside Republic. Secondly, we had Jesse Marseille on the show. Guy quits his job 3 weeks ago, sales job, and decides to become a full-time podcaster. Jesse. But you know what? I had a great time with Jesse on the show. And you know I love my creators. We love celebrating creators on the show. But Jess, my man, the first mistake you made was you called it a podcast. You're going to get lumped into all the other podcasts out there. You do a show, man. You tell great stories. You're a storyteller on your Storyteller podcast, Jess. So you want to stand back as a marketer. You know, you called me out. You're like, hey, I'm getting free advice from a guy who sold his company for $50 million. It's true. So I'm going to give you some advice. Get behind the slogan of a show. Get away from a podcast. Be a storyteller. Talk about narratives. I think the idea of podcasting is slowly going to move to the side as YouTube and video continues to take over the planet. So anyways, Jess, there's my 2 cents for you. Maybe 4, maybe 5. Come back to the show. Would love to have you back, Jess. All right. Third, before we introduce Jeremy Ryan to the show, talking with my hands guy again, I wanted to talk about something that I think is relevant to today's chat with Jeremy, which is this whole idea that challenges don't knock. I think when you're surfing, you're going to have a challenge, and it's probably not going to knock on your door when you're having a challenge. I suspect that challenge is going to barge right on in. You're going to fall off your board. Yeah. And I suspect what happens next, how you react, is going to determine what the success is, whether you're going to continue surfing or not. So I invite you, Business Athlete Nation, to think right now, in the middle of your day, the start of your day, the end of your day, you're thinking, fuck, I got a challenge in front of me. Well, don't be surprised by it. Don't be surprised by the challenge that is standing in front of you right now. Be asking yourself why you didn't expect it. Do you think Jeremy gets on the board not realizing he's going to fall off or have a bad situation? I'm sure Jeremy's always anticipating the challenge that's going to happen when he's out there on the water. I'm suspecting that's why he successfully became a pro surfer to a pro business person who now runs a successfully branded business called, I think it's Ruit Clothing. I'm going to suspect that Jeremy along the way had challenges. So I invite you, nation, don't pretend they're not going to happen. And don't pretend that they're just not going to make themselves appointment schedule viewing. No, they're going to barge right in and they're going to show up in front of you and you're going to say, holy fuck, I got a challenge. No, you have an opportunity. That's it. You have an opportunity to move away from the word challenge into opportunity. All right, so enough of that. That's just a bunch of bleh this morning. Lots of energy. I'm on my mission, to create the world's biggest talk show here on LinkedIn and YouTube. And part of that mission has been connecting with every single one of you. So you connect with me on LinkedIn, you're getting personal video from me. Jeremy doesn't know this yet because he hasn't accepted my invite. But you send me an invite, we connect one-on-one, you're not going to get any. You're not going to get any chat GPT generated content. Nope, you're going to get a personal message from me. So let's connect on LinkedIn. Let's build a network together. Let's collaborate. Let's do a bunch of great content creation together. Okay, let's bring Jeremy Ryan in to the show here. I'm gonna pop up here. We're gonna keep him here today, and we're gonna go back over there in a second. There's Jeremy Ryan. What's going on, Jeremy? I did say it right, Ruit.
You said it correctly. Yeah, impressive.
Look at that off the top of my head. I saw the word in your promo material that I looked at. But then I saw it on your hat and saw it on your shirt. Not that I'm describing it to anybody listening right now that Jeremy's wearing a Ruit hat and a Ruit sweater. Really nice looking stuff too, by the way. No, I'm not good at weaving that stuff into the conversation.
Yeah, well done. And I didn't realize I had a LinkedIn notification connection that I got to take care of. So I'm going to do that right after the show. So.
There you go. Say, listen, Jeremy, I know you're a friend of the show. I know you've seen the show before. I love my guests, but what I love more than my guests is I love throwing my guests under the bus. I love having fun with my guests. It's the best part of the show. I can put them in the green room. I can talk smack about them the whole time. And then I can just control them, bring them in, bring them out, talk about them, whatever I got to do.
That's the best way to do it, right?
It's the best way to do it. So, Jared, you are joining us from the cloudy state, not California. Yeah, if you're watching this, you can see that I'm laced in sarcasm.
Yeah.
Where are you joining us from, Jared?
Yeah, so I'm in Los Angeles, in California, and it's been raining quite a bit and pretty cloudy, so it's actually as clear as we've seen it in a while, so it's pretty amazing.
So are you right in Los Angeles? So I know you are you're originally from Venice, moved to Ventura County, and are you right in LA proper right now, or where are you right now?
We're in on the west side, like somewhat like Century City area.
Okay.
But yeah, I've been here for 3 years now. But yeah, I was born in Venice, and then when I was 10 years old, the company my dad was working for ended up moving up north to a town called Port Hueneme. Yeah. Which is just a tiny little farm town up there and about an hour north of LA. And so we went up there, and that's where I lived until about 3 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. So I got to ask you something. I've been to Venice Beach a number of times, Muscle Beach and so forth. And I'm a Canadian guy, so it's like foreign to me. It's like going to Mars. However, I've been there enough times where I've always wanted to ask somebody who's from Venice Beach what it was like being born there. Because I have this vision in my head of your parents. I'm thinking your parents are probably the coolest Southern California. Like I'm thinking they're probably 60s, 70s babies or so forth. I'm picturing Venice, California in the 60s and 70s. Young Jeremy Ryan. Like I have this vivid vision in my head, Jeremy, of that. Am I? And I think you can describe what that is in the middle. Am I right?
Yeah, no, that's spot on. So yeah, my parents grew up, during the hippie era, right? So it was like hanging out at the beach and living that beach lifestyle. My dad surfed. My mom was, the good looking girl that would just hang out on the beach in the bikinis, would hang out with all the surfers, and so it was just one of those things.
I knew it.
Yeah. And at that time, my mom had 6 other brothers. So her brothers were 6 other brothers, 5 other brothers. But they were all part of skateboarding, and back then, I don't know if your listeners are aware or have much knowledge on it, but like the Dogtown, Z-Boys, the ones that started skating really and made it popular. Mm-hmm. So my uncles were the younger generation of those guys. So they were cruising around with all of them. So it was that same. So if you watch Dogtown, Z-Boys, anything like that was how my uncles grew up. And that's like my family, like background. Yeah. And then, so for me, like, I remember I got my first skateboard from my uncle when I was like 4 or 5. And it was a Tony Alva, local Venice boy. But so, yeah, I just, growing up there was awesome until 10, because I didn't surf. It was just skateboarding. So I just skateboarded all around the beach, like that Muscle Beach area. There was some cool skate spots.
Yes.
There wasn't a skate park how there is now, but there was people had set up ramps, and it was really cool. Like I really enjoyed it. But at that point, there was no surfing. It was just all about skateboarding back then.
But still a very similar culture. We think about surfing, skating, maybe some similar cultures, right? So you say to me that you aren't surfing at 10, but by the time you're 19, and we're going to get there, so don't rush there for me. But by the time you're 19, you're a national surf champion. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So
correct.
You haven't surfed up until 10. When do you first start surfing, Jeremy?
I didn't start surfing until we moved up north. And probably I was around 12 when I first rode a wave on a surfboard. I was riding boogie boards and whatnot when I was in Venice and playing around the ocean. And then when we went up there, that's what I knew. So I was boogie board. And yeah, one day I remember getting out of the water on my boogie board, and my dad had just got out of the water on a surfboard, and his board was just laying on the sand by the shore. And I was like, hey, can I try it? And he was like, yeah, go ahead. And my dad never pushed me into trying to learn to surf. He was kind of just like, whatever you want to do, baseball, basketball. I kind of just did all the sports. There was no like push. So I just grabbed his board and I went out into like waist deep water, and a whitewash came, and I like paddled, and I stood up on the first one, and I rode it all the way in. And I remember going, wow, that was so much better than boogie boarding. Like the moment I did, I was just like, that was cool.
Yeah.
And I already had a skate background, so I felt comfortable standing on a board. So that was literally the moment when I was like, okay, I want to start surfing. And then my uncle got me a surfboard, some old like used surfboard. And then I started going out a little bit, but it was so difficult. So I would do it for a few days and then get kind of discouraged. And then I go back to the boogie boarding because I was pretty good at that. And so I just slowly just went back and forth until eventually I started to get better at surfing. I started to progress, and within like a year, I was like, okay, I'm just fully transitioned.
Do you ever look back, Jeremy, at your childhood and look at Venice today and, listen, society's just moved so much further as society does 30, 40, 50 years. Do you ever look back at that part of the country, that part of California, and kind of whack some nostalgia and just kind of think, oh man, what it was like back in the day, like as a young man growing up?
It's funny because I'm down there a lot. So I teach surfing now. So I do a lot of lessons at Venice.
Okay.
Where I would have surfed if I was surfing back then.
Yeah.
And, I don't remember it, to be honest. Like,
interesting.
I don't remember like right now there's so much homeless, like the homeless situation there is like on a whole nother level. Like it's unbelievable. And I don't remember that when I was younger. So I'm assuming it wasn't as bad, but I could have just been so young that I was oblivious to a lot of that. But yeah, it's weird. I don't feel the nostalgia of it when I'm there now. It just feels like a different lifetime. And now I'm here, and this is how it is here. And this is, it's kind of strange. Like I've never felt that connection. Like, ooh, I'm back to my roots, that kind of feeling. I've never felt that. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Where would you say you found that then? Where was that connection when you moved to Ventura, when you were in out, like where did you find that connection, Jer?
100%. Like my roots are up in Oxnard, Ventura, that area, Port Hueneme. Every time I go up there, I just feel like I'm at home. I feel, all my friends are there, and just all the memories of my whole life is there. There's 30 years of memories up there.
Interesting.
Of building and surfing all the time, and it's just that area is just such a slower pace. It's just more relaxing. Come to LA, like everyone's honking, people are impatient. It's not the vibe that I really like.
Yes.
There are a lot of great opportunities. Like there's insane restaurants. There's definitely more to do. There's a lot of stuff about like business. It's great for having a business. There's just more opportunity for growth. But when I go up there, it's a sense of calm, it's more relaxed, it's more chill vibe. And I really resonate with that, and I grew up in that. So that's how I kind of it's what it's made me, like I'm just that kind of person.
Yeah. So you moved to Ventura at 19, you win a championship, a national surfing title. You are American surfing champion, correct?
Yeah. For amateur. Yeah. So it's like, that's like at that time, that was literally the highest next to like world junior champion. That was the highest achievement you could get as an amateur.
Okay. And what happened after that experience?
So that was the last amateur event that I ever did. So from that event, I was able to actually turn pro, get sponsors that would pay me, and started traveling, doing like pro contests and like video trips and stuff like that.
And then you turned pro. And how long were you pro, Jared?
It's a weird thing, like, to be called pro. I mean, I've been getting paid, I got paid for almost like 25 years, 20 so years. And it's different, it fluctuates. Like some years you're making more money, you have better sponsors. Sometimes the sponsors change. Sometimes there's like gap periods where you're trying to look for a new sponsor, because whatever, I had the best sponsor I had near the end of my career actually ended up going bankrupt, and that's why I lost my sponsor. And then it ended up transitioning me into just creating my own brand and sponsoring myself. And that was part of the reason why I started. If I still had a sponsorship, I would have never started Ruit, because that was the motivating side of it, was like, I'll just sponsor myself. Like, I don't need to rely on all these companies, big corporate companies that don't really care about you. It's just about trying to get them sales, and then they use you for what they can, and which I'm not knocking it. Now that I have a business, I understand, like, you have to be very smart with the money. But I was just like, I just want to make stuff for me, like stuff that I like, stuff that my friends like. And if it turns into something, great. If not, I'm still going to make my own clothes forever. Like, I don't see Ruit ever going away. It may just transition into different types of clothing, but yeah, I don't see it. I don't see it ever going away, no matter what.
So Ruit sounds like it was born out of necessity instead of passion, or was it passion disguised as necessity?
It was a little bit of both. I've always had a passion. I mean, my background is graphic design, web design. So I've always had a passion for design and creating my own stuff, whatever that may be, websites, t-shirts, whatever it is. So it was, I guess it was more passion, but then there was a reason behind the passion that allowed me to pursue it, versus like, I don't have the time or money to just be like doing passion projects, Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's got to make sense as well.
So how did you transition that to that last statement where it has to make money?
Yeah. Sorry, you cut out on the last part.
Yeah. How did you transition from a this is a passion type project to this needs to make money for me? Yeah.
So, I mean, luckily I have two other things going that bring in income. So When I first started this, it was, and I need this brand to make money so that it's a sponsor, right? Like, it will pay for my contest entry fees. It will pay for travel expenses and whatnot. So in the beginning, there was definitely more of like, I need to make some money. At this point now where I'm at, I have income streams coming in two other areas, so I'm not that concerned. So now it's actually turned more into a passion from what it was before, when it was like, let's make this blow up so that this is all we do. Now it's like, if this doesn't take off, it's okay. I'm totally fine with it. I'm still going to make the stuff for myself and my friends if that was ever the case. But it's definitely more passion now than anything.
So what are the other income streams you have, Jeremy, that sustain your living? If it's not Ruit, what else do you do?
Yeah, so I own a digital marketing agency. So we do everything from web design, Google ads, Facebook ads, SEO, and we work with home service industries. So plumbers, contractors, any pool builders, deck builders, anything in the home service, home improvement realm. And so that's the bread and butter. That's where I make most of my income. And then I also teach surfing. So I have a surf school. It's all one-on-one private lessons with me. And so between those two, that takes care of, expenses and whatever I'm doing. And then the bonus is doing the clothing. And that's like that's kind of how I get my design fix and like creativity, each day to kind of do something cool that's just more for me than anything.
Yeah. So then what prompted you to get out onto the podcast?
I'm not gonna use the word circuit, but the podcast circuit, out there. Are you out here talking? Are you out here engaging with people to talk about Ruit, to talk about the digital marketing business, the surfing career? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, it really just depends on what podcasts are interested in talking about. I'm very passionate about all three things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
And they all kind of intertwine. They all kind of overlap as well. So when I'm doing surf lessons, I can also promote Ruit. When I'm promoting Ruit, I can also promote the design and surf and marketing. And with the marketing, like we do home service stuff now, which is relatively new. We've been doing it for a couple of years now, but prior to that, we've worked with Nike, we've worked with Red Bull, we've worked with a lot of just brands across the board. So we have a lot of knowledge, whether it's e-com or whatever that is. And so, yeah, it's more of just like whatever people are interested in on either of these three topics, I'm really more than happy to dive into it because I'm really passionate about all three.
I'm intrigued when you said home services, because you clearly somewhere in your journey, and I bring this up because there's entrepreneurs, business guys listening right now who might hang on what we're going to talk about next, which is this idea that you identified an ICP in your journey, ideal customer profile. You're like, oh, home services. I'm interested in that. I wonder if I can go and niche out on that. What prompted the look over the shoulder at the old, maybe there's something here that I can go build something around?
We did e-commerce for a while.
Yeah.
And it's really challenging. It's really challenging to show results. It's really challenging to, we work with startups, which is a nightmare. Like we won't even touch startups anymore, startup clothing lines, stuff like that, because the amount of time and energy it takes is so much more than the entrepreneur that's hiring us understands. And so it's just been too challenging. And
interesting.
With home service, I grew up at the beach. And almost, I would say, I don't want to say 90%, 85% of all surfers, the go-to work that they do is construction, anything that has to do with like that type of work, plumbing, roofing, drywall, because it's so easy to surf and then go to work and then have time to go surf. And then sometimes the work is sporadic. So if they don't have a job, they could surf. It's a very flexible type of industry if you're working. So I just know a lot of home service people. I mean, my first job ever I was doing drywall when I was like 16, and worked with some local surfers that were from my beach. That I've done painting, drywall, roofing. I did that when I was young, and it's not that I have a passion for it. Like I don't want to do that stuff anymore. But I don't know. For us, it kind of found us. Like we didn't pick the niche as much as the niche picked us.
Interesting.
And we had really great results with a few friends that we're working with, and we're like, okay, like let's just do this. Like this is very simple. It's very simple. You either do Google ads or Facebook ads, and it's very simple to process. You run simple SEO. It's local SEO. Like it's just, we have like a system now that now it's just, we're not just trying to figure out the brand and like what's the demographic. Like we know exactly what to do now. It's more plug and play. So we get better results, and we're not like banging our heads against the wall trying to figure it out.
I love that you said this, because often we as entrepreneurs overthink everything. But in your process, you identified something which was working, and you said to your colleagues, let's just go amplify what's working, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. And we still experiment a little bit, like with different niches, sub niches. We'll try some things and see if, they need some help and how that industry works. And we still play around with it because we love marketing. We love trying to solve the problem. And people don't realize how difficult marketing is, like to properly do it. That's why so many people run Facebook ads or Google ads, and then they come back and they're like, this doesn't work. It's like, it works, but you have to know what you're doing, and it's a bit challenging.
Expand upon that statement, that bold statement, which is most people don't know what marketing is or don't know how to do it. Expand upon that for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people just don't understand the amount of money and time and consistency it takes. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of people are like, the biggest issue that we've had in the past with speaking with clients is they're like, yeah, we really want to run some Google ads. And we're like, let's do this. And then when it comes down to how much they need to spend, they're just like baffled. They're like, what? They're like, can I just do like 200 a month? And so it becomes this like, it's a numbers game, but you have to understand, like, once you spend a certain threshold and everything's set up properly, that's when the return comes. If you spend less, you're just kind of burning money. And that's the hardest thing that I found, to be able to convince clients, like, there's a certain number that you have to hang in here and hang for a couple months before you're going to get those results. And it's just kind of how it works. Same with like Facebook ads, right? Like, the creative is so important. Like, you could spend all the money in the world, but if your creative sucks, you're not going to get anything either. So that's like a different type. That's like more coming up with an offer and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it's the biggest challenge is just having clients understand, like, there's a lot more to it. It's not like you can go Facebook, hit boost posts, which a lot of people think they're marketing when they do that, and they're just burning money. But it's cheap. It's cheaper, and they feel like they're doing something. And yeah. I mean,
I love the comment that you just made about people feel like they're doing something. And I'm going to suggest to you that Facebook, well, the social platforms, have made gazillions of dollars on that feeling alone. Human beings feeling like, oh, I got to do something. So I got to go place an ad, or I got to go do something on Facebook or Instagram. So I'm just going to go post it up there. And then it's back and they're just like, okay, yeah, wait for the likes to come in. Oh, I'm marketing right now. Oh yeah? Yeah, good for you. That's awesome marketing, right? People don't often think about, okay, I got to hire Jeremy to do my marketing for me. I got to get him a creative setup, the strategy setup, and then you say to this person, okay, I got your package of stuff to market. Now let's go spend some money marketing it. They're like, what? I got to spend money distributing the stuff you created for me? Yeah, actually you do.
Right. Yeah, it's challenging. And and the thing with boosting posts and stuff like that, like, I do always tell clients, I'm like, look, it's better than nothing. But if you're expecting to like really get returns and grow your business, like, that's not how you but yeah, anything is better than doing nothing. I've always say that no matter what. But you got to understand what that anything is actually going to bring you,
Yes. Yeah.
Is it worth the time?
Purposeful.
And that's yeah.
Talk to me, Jeremy, about organic marketing and organic reach and building organic audience.
Yeah. So that's the long-term play, right? Like, so that's another challenge. We kind of paused on a lot of the SEO stuff for a while because it was just so frustrating, because you bring on a client and they're like, okay, I want to do some SEO. We're like, all right, let's do it. And then in like a month, they're like, I'm not ranking at the top. It's like,
yeah.
And we make it very clear, like, this is a long-term play. This is like 12 months, 6 to 12 months minimum. Like, you're not going to see anything. And people just don't understand that. They don't understand the way that works. But once it starts to work, it's a game changer. Once you can start getting that ranking, and it takes time. And the same with content, content creation. Like, you need to be posting blog posts. You need to be on your socials. You need to be, it's consistency, and there's so many ways you can do it to where it's not a huge time crunch so that you're just grinding every day. Like, there's ways to automate this stuff, or you set it up and, spend a couple days and you could set up your whole month for post, and there's shortcuts and there's ways that you can do it, but you have to be consistent. You have to. And that's the key. And yeah, a lot of people just don't understand like how much work it takes and how consistent it is. And that's why we charge what we charge, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And we got to stay on it. You got to be on it.
Yeah.
So
the similarities to surfing and digital marketing are just brilliant, aren't they? Because, so I've tried to surf. I'm going to put tried in big quotes, right? And as I joked in my monologue, they had to give me a fucking plank. I was out in Southern Australia. They're going, Mr. Keith, yes, you surf on this one. All right. It's a big piece of wood for me to get on. But surfing is about falling down 9,000 times, then one time getting up and lasting for a long time. And it's like digital marketing, isn't it? You just got to keep showing up consistent, boring. And it's just like my monologue, right? It's going to be a challenge every single day. You got to anticipate the challenge. And then one day that wave's going to take you, right? Jeremy, you're like, oh my God, I'm on the wave and I'm actually standing up and I'm still standing right now. And then from that moment, it's just, oh my goodness, this actually works, doesn't it?
I mean, this is, That's exactly right. 100%. I even would take a step further and say surfing is exactly like life.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is like the ebbs and flows of surfing is the same with life. Like nothing is ever perfect in life. Nothing is ever horrible forever in life, but you're always going to have ups and you're always going to have downs, and you have to be able to anticipate for both, and you have to be cool with it, and you got to go with the flow, you know? So when I'm surfing, you know, I've been surfing for over 30 years, right? There's still days where I go out and I just am out of rhythm and I just can't seem to get a good wave. And there's people that have hardly been surfing ever and they're finding like good waves. And then there's some days where I go out and there's nothing I can do that's nothing wrong. Like I could paddle over here and a wave just comes to me and I take it. I could paddle over here and a wave comes to me and I get it. I don't fall. I'm pulling every maneuver I'm trying. I feel good. My body's strong. There's those days too. And then some days where, man, like my hip kind of hurts.
Yeah.
And then that's affecting a lot of my surfing. And then that little tweak can kind of trigger other things to kind of not really go. Maybe my mental space isn't in the best spot. And I'm getting a little irritated because it's crowded. Like there's so many factors, but I always try to just two things. I always try to have tons of empathy when I'm in the water or when I'm just living in my life, because you never know like what other people are thinking, what they're dealing with. So even if I'm having like a bad session, I'm always like, some of these people out here could be dealing with something very bad. So I always try to just keep that going. I also know that like, okay, I'm having a bad session or whatever, a bad day in business or whatever it is, and that's going to go away. It's not going to last forever. Mm-hmm. So I just know it's like, okay, what's the best course of action I could take right now for this situation? And usually it's just to be positive and just be positive, stay calm, think about the situation, make a decision, and then move on, right? Like it's just, there's not a lot to, anything else is just probably not going to be good.
This is where I really like to get my guests into the conversation. It took me 37 minutes to get you here, pal, but you gave me something to hang on. Something really, you know, not that the first 37 weren't meaningful, but the statement you made that you try to live every moment of your day with empathy. And you said to me while I'm in the water, I would never have thought of surfing with empathy first. Like it just doesn't cross my mind. But that when I heard you explain it, it's brilliant though, because it's about respect to it. You got to respect the waters. You got to have empathy for the waters, and you have to know what's around you, knowing that they might be in a worse situation than you, don't you? Because that's a meaningful statement to me, because I never would have thought about you going out surfing. That's the first thing on your mind.
Yeah, there's one thing I always do, and I've been doing it for, I'm trying to think how long I've been doing it for, at least 10 years. And I don't know anyone else that does this. I've never like opened up conversation around it, but every time I paddle out, I make it a special point to myself to give one wave to somebody I don't know. Yeah. So what that looks like is I'm out there, a wave's coming in, and not just like a crappy wave, like actual legit good wave. A wave's coming, I have position. So essentially it's my wave. Now, just to kind of paint the picture, like when I do surf, I'm normally most likely the best one out there in most cases and most beaches. And it's not a brag. It's just, I've put in so much work that I better be. And even if there's other pros out there, it's close. So if they're not pros, I'm for sure I can paddle faster. I just have more wave knowledge and whatnot. So I can find waves really well. So if I'm in position, a really good wave's coming, there's somebody that I can tell he's kind of paddling like he really wants it. And, you know, maybe I've seen this guy sitting around not catching waves. Maybe I've seen like, you know, like if he's aggressive and he's like being aggro prior, then I'm not going to give him a wave. Yeah, more than likely. But if he's like somebody that you can tell he's like learning, or you can tell he's like really excited because this is like a good wave, and he's like, you know, he might be the one that I'm like, go, man, go. And I can't tell you how many times, like when I've done that, I've had people paddle up to me and like, you know, thank me or whatever. I've also, the other reason behind doing this as well that's really beneficial, and I think every surfer should do this, is that once I do that and give a wave to somebody, that person will never, ever, 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 I guarantee the rest of our life ever try to out paddle me and get position on me for a wave. And I've tested it with the most aggro people out there that are just like nightmares, that will just paddle and snake people. And I've done that. And literally after you do that, they don't even, when I start paddling for a wave, they don't even think twice. They just paddle over it and like get out of the way.
Oh,
and
man.
so it's a great way to kind of, in some ways, I feel like it kind of shows authority a little bit because I can take the wave, but you know what? I'm going to be the bigger man. I'm going to give you a wave. And not only that, it's like, it's just showing like, hey, I can sacrifice a wave and I'm still going to get a lot of waves. Like everyone, it's all good, you know?
Jeremy, dude, you got to stop talking, man, because you're revealing my secrets here on the show.
Nice.
And the secret is kindness.
Yeah. 100%.
Right? Like the world wants to run towards controversy so everybody can have a controversial conversation until they go run to the next one. But people haven't discovered the power of kindness. But actually, Jeremy, and you clearly have, people haven't, okay, I'm going to whisper for this. People haven't discovered the power of kindness. Because you used it, power. When you're kind and you're more kind than anybody else, who can out-kind you? And I know it sounds really goofy, but when you're like, no, go take that. Before you know it, because you know you're good, you know you have the ability to do it, and you're like, no, I want to help you guys. I want to celebrate all of you. When the time is right, I'll take a wave. Like that's power, man. That's power. And at the same time, you're celebrating everybody else around you. Like I want to be in the water with guys like you. And your statement is you're just revealing my secret to the nation here on my plan to build the world's biggest talk show here, because I'm just going to go and celebrate everybody else. Yeah. I'm going to find awesome human beings, tell their stories, celebrate them, and then step back and let them celebrate. And then along the way, I'll catch a wave. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll take the lead at some point. But no, I want you to take the wave, Jeremy. I want you to take the wave, Jesse. I want you to take the wave, Nicole, because that's extremely fulfilling. Because when the time is right, I'll grab a wave. That is awesome for you, man. That to me is the gold in this whole conversation right now. That tells me everything about you right there.
Yeah. Well, and let me add to that. So
love it.
And that's amazing that you're that's kind of your thought process as well. But like, there's two reasons. So one reason why people don't do it is because everyone's been taught that if you give people an inch, they take a mile, right? Like if you're too nice, you get like nice guys finish last and blah, 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 right? And I agree to an extent, like in the short term, nice guys finish last. I still believe that. Yeah. But in the long term, which you should be going for, you will not finish last. Yes. You will finish ahead. So 100%. I think there's definitely a miscommunication there, and everyone wants that quick, return and value or whatever it is, that they're just, everyone's just so impatient with life, and they want that quick either validation or whatever it is. So they're very quick to fight. Now, the other thing with surfing in general is surfing is a very selfish sport. Mm-hmm. Surfing, more so than any sport that I can think of, I don't think there's one sport that I can think of that's more selfish than surfing, because if you're not aggressive and you don't paddle and go after waves, you're not going to get a wave. Like, you will sit out there for 4 hours and never stand up because people will just paddle around you, take the wave, paddle around you, take the wave. So it's a very aggressive sport. And so, it's selfish. So when you do something like give somebody a wave, it's almost confusing. It almost can create like a lack of confidence in myself because, I didn't want that wave, or it was scary or whatever. They might, but knowing that they know that I can surf, then it actually holds more weight versus like a beginner. If a beginner did that person might just keep getting taken advantage of.
I'm thinking you're elevating that person, because if they know who Jeremy Ryan is, and I'm suspecting that they probably do, and like, oh my God, Jeremy's passing this wave off to me.
They probably don't know that.
Okay. Okay. So whether they do or they don't, they're like, hey, this guy's giving me a wave. Maybe they've seen you surfing. They see you're pretty good at it. But you're giving them the wave, they're instantly gaining respect. They're instantly giving you respect.
Exactly. Versus if it's like a newbie surfing and they do it, other people might take that as a sign of like, he's just not confident.
Yes.
So you do have to have a balance, and I think how you do it, depending, on your level, will dictate how that works.
So here's an interesting question for you. So I noticed that I should put the big screen on so everybody can see me too. So like myself, I have this wisdom on my face and on my hair, and it's called a little silver and some gray.
exactly.
Right? And I noticed you have wonderful wisdom. You're a wonderfully smart, wisdom young man. So
I have another story about that we could get into about
we
that.
will get into that because it's hard for me to step back to it. When and how did you learn, and who did you learn the power of empathy in the water? Because I wondered, did 20-year-old Jeremy, 30-year-old, 18-year-old Jeremy, was he giving waves away, or was Jeremy the young, aggressive, I'm good, I'm a punk? Like, what was the moment in your life where you're like, I'm going to step back a little bit and I'm going to start giving waves away? How did you start giving waves away, Jeremy?
No, I've always been super respectful. So where I grew up in a time, in an era where there was a lot of localism.
Okay.
And I mean, people would just literally get, if you're from LA or you're from somewhere else and you paddle out where I grew up, I mean, they would just be like, get out of the water. And if you didn't do it, you would just get punched in the face in the water. Like it was brutal. So I was a young kid seeing all this, and I grew up with like, you show respect. Like guys would come up and surf, they'd paddle right out to the peak where all the locals were, and they would take the first wave that comes in. And I was just like, I would see that happen. I'm just like, oh my God. And they would have to leave the beach and never come back. And that's how it was. And so I just had it ingrained where you just show respect, and there's a pecking order. Like you work your way into the peak. Even myself now, like at the level I'm at, if I go to another beach, like I go to San Diego or even in LA, like I'm not going to just paddle straight out to the main peak and then take the first wave when there's been people sitting there waiting. Like I just will not do that out of respect. And so for me, it was just a transition of just thinking like, okay, I'm at a place where I can pretty much get any wave that comes through, as far as like, I can see on the horizon. Sometimes I can feel it in the water when I'm sitting there before waves come. I can kind of feel the motion, like the ocean kind of like doing some things where I know there's waves coming, and then I can kind of get a jump start and get in position before people. So I have an advantage there.
Yeah.
And so I just, I would always I knew I could get waves. So I was like, you know what? I'm not hungry to like get every wave anymore. Like I've surfed so much. I've surfed all over the world. I know my skill level. I'm confident in myself. I'm not trying to prove myself to anybody. And I think that's probably the hardest part. Like for the younger generation that's growing up, like everyone's trying to prove themselves. Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to prove yourself, or you're filming, you have a filmer on the beach, you're trying to get clips, you're a little more aggressive because you if you get that right wave, you could get a really good clip, and then that could go on your Instagram, and then that could help promote your sponsors, and it help make you more money. Yeah. So on that part, I get it. If you're, aspiring pro and you're really trying to put in, that's your job.
Yes.
Yes. But for me, it's like, that's not going to change my income. That's not going to do anything for me. So now I just want to enjoy surfing and be happy,
Jeremy, you talked about feelings in the water. I got to ask this question because I'm sure Business Athlete Nation's wondering, you ever afraid of sharks or sharks in the water?
Yeah.
Do they cross your mind, or is it no different than somebody, or would it be like you asking me, hey, Keith, when you hike, are you afraid of bears?
I mean, if you're hiking by yourself in Yosemite, I'm sure you'd probably think about it. Right.
Yeah.
But if there's tons of people walking around and you're hiking in Yosemite, you're probably less likely.
Yeah.
It's the same with surfing. Like you surf by yourself sometimes, especially if the waves are bigger and you're farther out. Well, the farther you are out, the more likely there's a shark out there. The closer to shore, the less likely. So there's times, but it's so rare that I'm ever surfing like by myself or just with a couple people these days.
Yes.
But I mean, luckily so far, like knock on wood, like I've never had a scenario where I felt like my life was in danger, but I've seen huge sharks, and I've had really close calls, like a 4-hour difference at a surf spot, and then someone got eaten, like in Australia. So I mean, but I've never had it to where I was like, I had that like terrified feeling where I saw something was coming at me and I had to like take off. So I've been very fortunate. Yeah, yes. I've never been in a shark cage either.
Well, Uncle Keith spent time in the shark, which I'm showing you here, and I was in Southern Australia in the Neptune Islands with some sharks. So I was like, I got to ask the guy about sharks and see if he's been on.
So Australia is a whole nother situation. Like I've seen 3 sharks in Australia, and my whole life here surfing in California, I've maybe seen 3, in my whole life. So it's not like it's not as common. I've seen a lot of little ones that aren't
Yeah,
scary.
yeah. So you grab that water, Jeremy. So as we work towards wrapping up our chat, I want to talk about two things with you. I want to talk about the gray hair wisdom. You said you had something to tag on that.
Yeah.
And then I want to bring it home with Ruit. I want to give you a chance to talk about Ruit. And
Okay, cool.
About Ruit. So let's start with the wisdom. What can you tell me about the wisdom that you show off every day so proudly?
Yeah. So it's just funny because I get it all the time. I mean, my hair is like, I started going gray when I was like 21. I started getting some grays. It runs in my family. It's just, but anyway, so it all the time, what happens is, this just happened a couple of days ago. I was surfing and this guy paddled over to me and he was like, he was probably like late 50s or something. And he paddles over to me and I knew what he's going to say. Like I knew 100% what he was going to say. And can you guess what he was going to say?
Go.
Okay. So he's like, and he looked at me and he was like he really wanted, he was very interested in this question and in the answer. And he's like, he like looked at me, he's like, how old are you? And I get that all the time. And it's like, and at first it like kind of bothered me, because I feel like I'm 20 and so it's kind of funny, but so I'm like, how old do you think I am? Like, I always throw it back on him.
You want to ask for my ID? Are you trying to sell me some?
Yeah, like I want to hear it. Like, don't be shy if you're going to ask me. Like, let's go. But yeah, so and so I get that all the time, and basically he was like, and I told him, I go, I'm 44, and he's like, wow, that's crazy. He's like, I saw you surfing from like down the beach, and I was like, wow, that guy is killing it. Like, who is that? And then he's like, the more I looked, I noticed there's like gray hair. And then I was like, wait, what is happening? And he's like, I was so confused. So I had to ask you. He's like, you surf like you're 20, but obviously you look older with the hair. And yeah, and I used to dye it like for years. I dyed it. I was like self-conscious about it. I thought it'd be bad for marketing, like for my sponsors, and not as marketable. And now I just don't care. Like I haven't cared for years. I'm like, whatever.
No, so I'll tell you, my friend. Yeah. I believe in today's world, your gray hair is worth more than ever. I'll tell you why I believe so. We live in a world where knowledge is largely a commodity. We have Chat GPT, we have Perplexity, we have all these AI tools in our pocket at our disposal. Yeah. But what we don't have is Jeremy's experience of learning empathy in the water. We don't have Jeremy's wisdom of moving from Venice to Ventura to LA and deciding to start Ruit. Right, like it doesn't. These AI tools don't have that. So someone will sit down and talk to Jeremy about his experiences. That to me is where your gray hair, my gray hair, has value because of what we've accomplished through life. And I think that is where people like yourself, and ideally people like myself, are maybe are of more value than we were yesterday.
100%. Yeah, I mean, experience is key, right? Like, and that's why I coach now. I do surf coaching, and I just have a lot of knowledge. I mean, I in that industry, I learned the hard way. Like I never had a coach. I never had a mentor when I was growing up surfing. And it's for sure the reason why I never got to the level that I could have been. It wasn't because of my skill level. It was just, there was other things that I wasn't doing correctly. And now when I work with young athletes that are trying to make it, I make it very clear, like there's certain things you have to do if you expect to make it. And if not, like, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, oh, I should have done that. And there's no way around it.
Yeah. Jeremy, before we say goodbye, I want to take a few minutes to talk about Ruit with me. I like the name. I like the font choice. Give me the origin of Ruit, what it means to you, and talk a little bit about the business of Ruit.
Cool. Yeah. So Ruit is, if you flip the letters around, it spells true. I did add a second T, but it's more for aesthetics. I just thought it looked better. But yeah, so the whole purpose of the brand or the messaging is basically to be true to you. So whatever it is that you do it because you love it, do it because you're passionate about it, and don't try to follow trends. Don't try to do things for other people. Just do what you love to do and be true to yourself. And the 3, I have the backwards, the 3 for the E, and that's for like 3 of life's questions. So who are we, what is our purpose, and where are we going? So these are the three things that you really need to be true to yourself. You need to really...
Oh, I think we lost Jeremy Ryan. I think we might have lost Jeremy Ryan live here in the lab.
Oh, there we go.
There he is.
So so that's basically it, just and the logo, I don't have the logo on, but the logo is based off like an Inca temple, and it has like the 3 steps in there, and so there's a lot of thought process to all this, and I wanted something that had some meaning, and Ruit, it was just, it took a year and a half to find a name, because everything on earth is taken. It's crazy when you try to trademark something. It's like, and so I just decided I'm going to make up my own name, basically my own word, and that's how we ended up doing this. But it's been great. I love it. Probably haven't done the best job on marketing as far as the message behind it. We've been spending so much time on like product design and figuring out, just dialing the website in and getting everything the way we want it, the products we want. But the next phase, in the next few months, we're actually doing a rebranding. I tweaked the logo a little bit. This is going to remain the same, but the logo has a little bit of a tweak. And yeah, we're going to start pushing the message and really getting that out there.
That's exceptional.
To our community.
Where can people find Ruit? Jeremy Ryan, where can people find it?
Yeah, so ruitclothing.com. You can check out our Instagram, obviously, Ruit Clothing. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's super exciting, super fun. I have some great mentors that are helping me that have been in the industry, worked with some huge brands and some streetwear brands. So I have some good connections there to kind of make sure I'm doing things properly. But we're a small company and we're moving slow. Everything that we make in my pocket. So we don't have investors. It's just me and a couple friends, and we're just slowly piecing it together and being strategic and smart about it. We're building it for long term. We're not trying to create some money grab brand. We're trying to slowly build something that's really cool. Everybody.
That's great. Well, yeah. That's awesome. And what you're talking about is it sounds to me like more like you're talking about was a brand, a business instead of just merch, right? Where people will quickly, merch their logo, take a bunch of logos, stick it on some product and sell it. You're looking at this from a meaning, a purpose, and something behind it, aren't you?
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely have more substance and more meaning, and like finding our tribe and finding the right, the demographic that resonates with what we're doing. We're a grassroots brand, and we're, we have some team riders, some surfers, and a couple skaters and DJs, and they're insane, but they're underground. They're not the most well-known, and that's what we're kind of going after. Like basically how I am. Like I grew up super underground, not a well-known pro, and that's, but I had the skills, but I just didn't have the platform. Like there was no Instagram, there's no YouTube when I was coming up, so I had to rely on networking and meeting people. And so there's a lot of, even right now these days with Instagram, I mean, there's guys and girls that are killing it surfing that have no sponsors. It's crazy. Like they're insane, like so good. Skaters as well. So we're just trying to not capitalize, but try to connect with those types of people that would like to be involved.
Excellent. Jeremy Ryan, thank you for joining me here today in the lab. Is there anything that we haven't addressed that you want to make sure the audience knows about before we say goodbye? Anything that we haven't talked about today?
No. I mean, as far as like everything that we're doing, if you're in LA and you want to get a surf lesson, definitely hit me up. Our website is spfsurfschool.com, SPF like the sunscreen. And definitely hit me up on Instagram, SPF Surf. And then if anyone's in need of marketing, it's subtideagency.com. So awesome. Yeah, anything. It could be any industry as well. Like I know we mainly focus on home service, but what this is, I'm sure there's a way we can help you.
Brilliant. All right. Jeremy Ryan, thanks for joining me here today, live in the lab with Keith Bilous. Enjoyed the conversation. Really brought me home to, I love what I learned at the 36 to 37 minute mark when you talked about empathy in the water. Love the concept of empathy. I love emotional intelligence. I think that we don't speak enough about that. I think that, I'm trying to use this platform to create more awareness around that. And if somebody's listening to me right now, just the idea of empathy, because you don't know what the other person's going through right now.
right? So in the fact that you go into the water, you're this vast ocean of water and you're thinking about the human being, brilliant to me. That tells me a lot about you, Jeremy Ryan. And I'm thankful that you shared that with me and my audience today. Thanks for coming by, man.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation for sure.
Awesome. I'm going to stick you back in the green room. I'm going to say goodbye to Nation and I'm going to come back and walk you out. Okay.
Sounds good.
Hang tight here. Boom, boom. There we go. Wow, that's good music. Hey. Okay. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to go walk Jeremy out of the lab. I hope you guys enjoyed the chat like I did. And I didn't expect it to go where it ended up, frankly. That's what I love about the magic of conversation, right? You have a conversation with somebody. They say a few things. You kind of go, oh, that's interesting to me. And then when he says, yeah, I go in the water and empathy is basically, he said, empathy is my superpower in the water. Like, what of you as a business leader, entrepreneur, athlete, leader, do you think about when you get into the water, using empathy to your superpower? Probably not. I would invite you to. If you're going to a meeting today, if you're going home to your kids, you're going to hang out with somebody, don't jump to judgment. Ask yourself, perhaps they might be going through something which, might make them feel uncomfortable right now. So I'll leave that with you. I'm going to go walk Jeremy out of the lab. Tomorrow I'm back with, I believe, Christian Espinoza. Yeah, Christian Espinoza joining me tomorrow in the lab. But of course, mornings in the lab with myself and Nicole. I'll be here tomorrow morning. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Ciao.